Hello, greetings, monkey mind alchemists. Last episode, we found the map. This episode, we found where the map came from. And the answer has been written in the cosmos this whole time.
It really is the ultimate pulling back of the curtain, isn't it? I mean, we are looking at a system that just completely recontextualizes literally everything we've discussed in our previous deep dives.
Exactly. But before we get into the actual mechanics of that, I want you, the listener, to just imagine a scenario with us for a second.
Yeah, let's set the stage.
Right. So imagine you are standing in this, I don't know, dusty 15th century Italian courtyard. You're holding this incredibly heavy, dull piece of lead in your hand.
Just feeling the sheer density of it.
Exactly, the weight. And you're looking up at the night sky, and you are tracking the slow golden crawl of Jupiter across the horizon. And in that specific moment, you realize that the sky above you, the heavy metal in your palm, and the chaotic, swinging monkey mind inside your own head, they're all running on the exact same operating system.
It's mind-blowing when you actually feel that connection.
Totally. And that is exactly what we are unpacking today. For those of you who have been with us through the first two deep dives, you know the territory we've been mapping.
Right. You know the foundation.
Yeah, so think of this as the natural third movement of a massive symphony. Everything we've established is still right here in the room with us.
Oh, absolutely. We certainly aren't discarding our foundation, you know. We still have the alchemical refinement of the monkey mind.
The raw material.
Exactly. That raw, heavy, reactive nature we all possess. I mean, the part of you that snaps at your partner when you're tired or, like, spirals into anxiety over a weird work email.
We've all been there.
Right. That is still the lead being transmuted into the pure gold of awareness. And we still have the furnace of your own deliberate attention providing the heat.
And of course, we still have the tarot functioning as that brilliant 78-station diagnostic map of the psychological process.
Yes. The map is still the map.
But what we are doing today is stepping out of that small, confined laboratory. We're looking up and realizing that the laboratory we've been working in is actually housed inside a massive, unimaginably complex cosmological room.
Which is such a wild realization.
It really is. And that brings us to a very deliberate seed we planted at the tail end of our last deep dive. A dangling thread that I know a lot of you have been sitting with.
Oh, I'm sure people have been wondering about that one. Yes, we made a very specific, almost contradictory statement.
We really did.
We told you that you do not even need to spend decades mastering the complex mathematics of astrology or, you know, the esoteric depths of the Kabbalah to profoundly benefit from them.
Right. And if you've been sitting with that thread, just wondering why we brought up those incredibly dense, intimidating ancient systems, only to tell you that you didn't need to get a PhD in them to use them, well, this is the moment we kick that door wide open.
It's time for the reveal.
Here is the massive reveal, the map behind the map. We talked extensively about how the tarot survived the Spanish Inquisition, the Enlightenment, and the Industrial Revolution.
It's incredibly resilient.
It is.
Wow.
And it survived because it was and is a highly functional, brilliant psychological map. But the deeper truth, the tarot is actually a translation. It's a cipher.
And a profoundly elegant translation at that. I mean, the original language of human consciousness, the original map of our psychological and spiritual evolution, wasn't drawn on 78 pieces of cardboard in the 15th century.
Right. They didn't just invent it out of nowhere.
No, not at all. It was written in the sky. It predates the tarot by thousands and thousands of years.
Which is just wild to think about.
It really is. The architects of the Rider-Waite deck, so Arthur Edward Waite, Pamela Coleman Smith, and the esoteric synthesizers of their era, they didn't invent the psychological stages we talked about. They engaged in a deliberate, highly precise encoding of the cosmos into a portable, concealable format.
So why does this matter to you? I mean, why should you care that a deck of cards sitting on your bookshelf is actually like a pocket-sized solar system?
It's a fair question.
Right, because the exact same alchemical forces that are moving through your living room right now, the forces driving your daily frustrations, your sudden bursts of creative inspiration, your agonizing moments of heavy, sluggish resistance, they are the exact same forces moving the planets.
Yes, it's the exact same operating system.
But I want to pause here and push back on this premise a bit because I have to play the skeptic for a moment.
Well, please do.
When you say the forces moving my frustrations are the same forces moving the planets, are we talking literal physical gravity? I mean, am I supposed to believe a giant rock millions of miles away is beaming some invisible ray into my brain to make me annoyed at my coworker?
I love that you brought this up.
Because one of those things is astrophysics, and the other sounds like, well, Magical thinking.
I am so glad you drew that line because
Ah.
we need to be incredibly clear about the mechanics here. No, we are not talking about a magical annoyance ray beaming from Mars.
Okay, good. That's a relief.
Right. We're talking about the ancient philosophical principle of the macrocosm and the microcosm, basically as above, so below.
Okay, I've heard that phrase. What does it actually mean practically?
Well, the ancients didn't view the universe as a collection of disconnected, dead rocks floating in a vacuum. They viewed it as a unified, fractal field of resonance.
A fractal field. Okay.
Yeah, they believed that the universe expresses certain fundamental archetypes at every level of reality simultaneously.
Give me a concrete example of that fractal resonance. How does that actually work in practice?
Okay, think of a spiral. You can see the mathematical sequence of a spiral in the shape of a massive galaxy revolving in deep space, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But you can also see that exact same spiral mathematics in the shell of a tiny snail in your garden and in the swirling pattern of water going down your drain.
Oh, wow. Yeah, okay.
The galaxy isn't causing the snail's shell to spiral via an invisible beam. Rather, both the galaxy and the snail are physical expressions of the exact same underlying mathematical law. They are governed by the same operating system.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. So when the ancient alchemists looked at the sky, they weren't seeing literal gods pulling strings to mess with them. They were observing the macro-level mathematics of the universe and realizing those exact same patterns must be playing out on the micro level of human psychology.
Precisely. You nailed it. And if the tarot is the map of the alchemical process, we have to ask, what are the actual forces doing the heavy lifting?
Right. What's powering the machine?
Exactly. In our previous deep dives, we outlined the stages, the blackening, the whitening, the yellowing, the reddening. But we held a crucial piece of the alchemical system back until this exact moment.
The planetary agents.
Yes. The ancient alchemists weren't just working with generic fire and generic metals. They possessed a complete, highly specific planetary cosmological model.
Okay, lay it out for us.
They recognized 7 visible planets in the sky, and they assigned each one of those planets a specific classical metal.
And again, to your point about fractals, this wasn't arbitrary. They didn't just, pull names out of a hat.
Oh, not at all. It was incredibly precise.
Because the physical properties of the metal perfectly mirrored the visual behavior of the planet, which in turn perfectly mirrored a specific state of human consciousness.
Let's break down these 7 correspondences because this is the bedrock. This is the master operating system of the ancients.
Let's do it. Where do we start?
It begins with Saturn, which corresponds to the metal lead. Now, mechanically, why lead?
Well, it's incredibly heavy.
Exactly. Physically, lead is the heaviest, densest, most contracted of the classical metals. It is toxic if consumed, it is incredibly resistant to change, and this is key. Its atomic structure is so dense that we still use it today in hospitals to block highly penetrative X-ray radiation.
Oh, right. You literally wear a lead vest at the dentist.
Exactly. It literally stops light from passing through it.
And when we translate that physical property into psychology, it becomes incredibly relatable. I mean, Saturn and lead represent the force of extreme limitation, of deep time, and of lessons that arrive in our lives disguised as heavy, immovable resistance.
It's the gravity of the human experience.
I really want to relate this directly to your monkey mind right now. Think about the last time you had a truly terrible day. You know that sluggish, heavy, intensely reactive state where everything you have to do feels practically impossible?
Oh, I know that feeling all too well.
Right. You sit at your desk, you stare at your email, and you just feel like a block of calcified lead. No light, no inspiration, no joy can penetrate your mood. That is the psychological equivalent of lead blocking an X-ray.
That is a perfect analogy.
When Saturn works on the prima materia, the raw, everyday material of your life, it is revealing your ego's defensive strategies for what they are: heavy, toxic, contracted lead.
Exactly. It's the starting point of all material existence. It is the necessary density of being alive in a physical body.
But we don't stay there forever, thankfully.
No, we don't. The furnace of life doesn't stay at one temperature. The wheel turns, and we encounter the next archetype, Jupiter, which corresponds to the metal tin.
Okay, so from lead to tin, what's the shift there?
Well, look at the physical mechanics. If Saturn and lead represent contraction and density, Jupiter and tin represent expansion and malleability.
Tin is way softer.
Yes. Tin is highly flexible. Historically, it was used to coat other metals to protect them from corrosion. It spreads out. Cosmologically, Jupiter represents the force of abundance, of sudden fortunate timing, of horizons broadening.
It is the exact energetic opposite of that heavy, depressive Saturn day.
Completely opposite.
Jupiter is that dynamic that suddenly opens a door that has been stubbornly closed for years. It's that expansive feeling when you finally understand a complex concept, or like when an unexpected check arrives in the mail just when you really needed it.
Yeah.
Your consciousness expands, just like tin stretching over a surface.
But growth isn't always just passive expansion, sometimes it requires force.
Okay, what kind of force?
Which brings us to Mars, corresponding to the metal iron. Think about iron. It is the tool of the warrior, the blacksmith's hammer, the sword.
Right, it's aggressive.
It is hard, uncompromising, and prone to rust if not cared for, rust being literal oxidation, a slow burning. Mars is the psychological force of direct, hard action.
Let's ground this in the real world. Iron isn't just a metaphor. It's literally coursing through your veins right now in your red blood cells.
Oh, absolutely. The physiological connection is real.
When you get genuinely angry, when your adrenaline spikes and your monkey mind goes into fight or flight, you can almost taste the iron in your mouth.
Yes, that metallic tang of adrenaline.
Mars is the energy you tap into when you finally set a hard boundary with a toxic coworker. It acts on the raw material of your life with aggressive will and precision. It separates what is yours from what is not yours, just like a blade.
And if we only had the separating force of Mars, we would isolate ourselves entirely. We'd just be cutting everything away.
We'd all just be completely alone with our swords.
Exactly. So the cosmos balances that martial energy with Venus, corresponding to the metal copper. Now, look at the physics of copper. It is incredibly warm in color, and more importantly, it is one of the most highly conductive metals on the periodic table.
Right, we use it for electricity.
We use it in wiring to transmit energy and connect power sources. Venus is the alchemical force that draws disparate things into relationship. It is the psychological drive for harmony, aesthetics, and energetic flow within the crucible of your life. It connects what Mars separates.
Okay, this brings us to one of the most fascinating correspondences in the entire system. Mercury, which corresponds to quicksilver.
Ah, yes, Mercury.
What makes this so brilliant to me is the literal physical state of quicksilver. It is a metal, yet it is entirely liquid at room temperature.
It's completely anomalous.
It moves, it shifts, it beads up and scatters. It refuses to be pinned down. It reflects everything perfectly, but it absorbs nothing.
It is the ultimate mirror in liquid form. And historically, Mercury was considered the alchemical messenger, the fluid bridge that could connect the higher, ethereal states of awareness to the lower, dense states of the material body.
Which is exactly how human thought works.
Yeah.
Your mind is quicksilver.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
It really is. It is constantly moving, scattering into 1,000 anxieties, reflecting the environment around you. It's the faculty that allows you to analyze a problem at work 1 second and worry about your laundry the next. Mercury is the bridge. It is the conscious intellect.
Then we look away from the conscious intellect and turn inward to the moon, which corresponds to the metal silver.
Silver. Okay, how does silver behave physically?
Well, silver is the metal of pure reflection, but it tarnishes easily when exposed to the harshness of the air, requiring constant polishing.
Oh, that's interesting.
Right. In this cosmological framework, the moon represents the emotional body, the vast, deep unconscious. It governs the hidden, intuitive tides of our inner lives that we can't always articulate with our quicksilver minds, but that we constantly feel pulling at us from beneath the surface.
The moon is why you can walk into a room, look at a spreadsheet with your quicksilver mind, but feel a deep, inexplicable knot of anxiety in your stomach.
Because your gut knows something your brain hasn't caught up to yet.
Exactly. Because your emotional body is picking up on the tense energy of the people sitting at the table.
And finally, we reach the destination, the center of the system, the sun, corresponding to the metal gold.
The ultimate goal.
Yes. And why has gold been universally revered across almost every ancient culture? Because of its unique physical mechanics.
It doesn't degrade.
Exactly. It holds its brilliant, radiant quality no matter what acidic, corrosive environment surrounds it. It does not rust like iron. It does not tarnish like silver. It does not calcify like lead. It is entirely immutable.
Which perfectly mirrors the ultimate goal of the psychological great work. Gold represents pure, unshakable, luminous awareness.
Yes, the awareness that survives the fire.
It is the part of you that can sit in the middle of a chaotic, screaming argument, observe the anger rising in your body, observe the monkey mind desperately wanting to lash out, and yet remain completely untouched by the chaos. The awareness itself does not rust.
When we synthesize this entire cosmological blueprint, it redefines everything we thought we knew about alchemy.
It really does.
The transmutation of lead into gold is not merely a medieval chemical equation aimed at getting rich. It is literally the journey from Saturn to Sol.
From limitation to pure awareness.
Exactly. It is the most contracted, dense, heavy state of human consciousness, painfully opening, expanding, taking action, finding relationship, reflecting on its depth, and refining itself until it reaches the most radiant, stable awareness possible.
That is the big picture. We have the planetary agents doing the work, and we have the physical metals mirroring the process. But here is where we have to connect the cosmos back to the map in your hands.
Right, we have to bridge the gap.
How did the architects of the Western mystery tradition manage to hide this massive, sweeping cosmological blueprint inside a deck of playing cards?
It's an incredible feat of design.
This is where that 78-card map you might have sitting on a shelf suddenly transforms from a divination tool into a living, breathing cosmological instrument.
Rather than just listing all 78 cards like a table of contents, which would completely overwhelm the listener, we are going to look at the deep narrative structure.
Please, yes. Let's not read a phone book.
Right. We are going to walk the celestial map by grouping the 22 stations of the Major Arcana, the heavyweights of the deck, into the actual alchemical phases they represent. Because the designers didn't just casually toss a planetary symbol onto a card for aesthetic flair.
It wasn't just to make it look cool.
No, not at all. They structurally encoded the alchemy, the human mind, and the sky so perfectly into each archetype that it is almost staggering to witness once you decode it.
Let's start with the setup phase, the tools of consciousness. When you decide you want to wake up and actually observe your monkey mind, you need specific psychological tools.
You can't do the work without the tools.
Exactly. The first two cards provide them. Card 1 is the Magician. The planetary correspondence here is exactly what we just discussed, Mercury. The metal is Quicksilver. The Magician represents the active, conscious intellect.
Yes, the fluid bridge.
In our first deep dive, we said the alchemical furnace was fueled by human attention, the literal act of noticing the monkey mind swinging from thought to thought. The Magician is that exact faculty. It is the specific neural network in your brain that makes noticing possible. It is the fluid bridge between the physical world and your inner awareness.
But the conscious mind cannot hold everything at once. It just doesn't have the capacity.
So what happens then?
So we turn to card 2, the High Priestess, which corresponds to the moon and the metal silver. If the Magician is the active waking intellect, the High Priestess is the vast repository of the unconscious.
She holds everything the Magician can't handle.
Exactly. She holds the deep intuitive knowing that the conscious mind simply cannot yet perceive. She is the silent witness. In the alchemical process, she is absolutely crucial during the negrito, the blackening stage.
I want to pause and make sure we define the negrito clearly for anyone who might not remember the terminology. The blackening, or the negrito, is the breakdown.
It's the darkest part of the process.
It's the dark night of the soul. It's the moment when your old identity, your old job, your old relationship completely dissolves. It feels like rotting. When your ego structure collapses into ash, the Quicksilver conscious mind panics. It doesn't know who it is anymore.
It completely shorts out.
But the High Priestess, the moon, silently holds that dissolved emotional material in the dark until it is ready to reform. She is the psychological container for your grief.
And once the breakdown of the negrito has occurred, the alchemist must move into the recovery phase.
Right, you can't just stay in the ashes forever.
Exactly. The albedo, or the whitening, this is the washing away of the ash, the psychological return of hope. And this phase is perfectly mapped by a sequence of specific archetypal forces, beginning with card 3, the Empress.
The Empress corresponds to Venus and the metal copper. She represents fertility, abundance, and the warm, conductive, creative, feminine force.
She is the dawn after the dark night.
If the High Priestess is the dark, silent dissolution, the Empress is the profound, beautiful return of life. It's that incredible feeling of creative recovery that washes over you after a long, brutal period of depression. You suddenly notice the warmth of the sun again.
The colors come back.
Yes. You feel the urge to plant a garden, to connect with a friend, to create something new. That is Venus conducting new life into your refined lead.
The albedo is a beautiful phase, but you cannot stay there forever. Eventually, you must forge this new, raw life into something durable.
It needs a spine.
Exactly. You must give it structure. This brings us into the citronatas, the yellowing phase. This is the first undeniable sign of the gold actually forming in the crucible. And the first archetype we encounter here is card 4, the Emperor.
And the Emperor introduces the first zodiac correspondence, the fiery sign of Aries, ruled by the planet Mars. Iron.
The warrior.
If the Empress was the soft, flowing copper, the Emperor is the hard, structural iron. This is authority and will. This is the force that takes the raw, vulnerable material that just survived the fire and begins to build a protective boundary around it.
It requires the iron will of the Emperor to forge its shape. You cannot protect your newfound psychological growth without boundaries.
Absolutely not. You'll just lose it all to the next stressful event.
Right. But an intellectual boundary isn't enough. It must be brought down into the physical reality of the world. This is why the sequence moves to card 5, the Hierophant, corresponding to the steady, grounded earth sign of Taurus.
The Hierophant is the physical body acting as a vessel. It's the structured earth holding the ancient wisdom your Quicksilver mind just learned.
It's the grounding wire.
I see this all the time with people who read self-help books. They have massive intellectual breakthrough, a Quicksilver epiphany. But nothing in their actual life changes. Why?
Because it stays in their head.
Because they lacked the Taurian energy of the Hierophant.
Yeah.
They didn't ground the epiphany into a daily physical habit. The Hierophant represents the realization that you have to plant your refined gold into the dense, mundane reality of your life. You have to embody it.
When you finally embody that truth, you reach a critical psychological crossroads. Card 6, the Lovers, corresponding to Gemini, the twins.
Ah, Gemini.
This is about discernment, duality, and the moment of profound choice. In the alchemical laboratory, this maps to the conjunctio, the union of opposites.
Let's translate conjunctio into modern psychology. This is the exact moment in therapy or in deep introspection where two completely opposing beliefs you hold about yourself are brought together in the crucible.
It's an incredibly volatile moment.
Let's say part of you believes you are highly capable, and another part of you believes you are an absolute fraud. The monkey mind usually swings violently between the two.
Imposter syndrome at its finest.
Right. The conjunctio is the moment you hold both opposing truths simultaneously, and the friction between them produces a third, completely new state of awareness that neither belief could produce alone. It is a synthesis.
But once you have achieved that synthesis, that new, highly volatile psychological material, you have to transport it.
You can't just leave it sitting on the workbench.
Exactly. You have to move it forward without losing it. This requires card 7, the Chariot, corresponding to the water sign Cancer.
No, wait a minute. This is one of those correspondences that always trip me up.
Oh, I know exactly what you're going to say.
The Chariot is usually drawn as a warrior in a heavy stone vehicle being pulled by horses or sphinxes. It looks like a card of sheer willpower and forward motion. So why does it correspond to Cancer, a highly sensitive, emotional water sign represented by a crab? That seems like a massive contradiction.
It seems like a contradiction until you look at the mechanics of the alchemical vessel itself. The Chariot is not about the horses pulling the cart. It is about the cart itself.
Oh, interesting.
It is the protective shell. Think of a crab. It has a soft, incredibly vulnerable interior protected by a hard, impermeable exterior shell. Alchemically, this is the crucible.
Okay, that clicks.
Right. It is the heavy, secure, emotionally sealed walls holding the intense, volatile heat of the operation so that none of the precious material is lost or contaminated by the outside world during transport. The Chariot is the psychological armor you put on to protect your soft, newly formed awareness as you navigate the harsh reality of the world.
That is brilliant. It's a container.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have the new material securely in the vessel. Now we can turn the heat up.
Yes, the heat rises significantly here.
Card 8 is strength, corresponding to Leo, the lion. This is the solar force of the heart. It is the courage that manages to tame the wild, reactive beast of our animal nature, the monkey mind, not through brutal, martial domination, but through love and calm authority.
And this is a huge turning point.
Because this is the very first direct correspondence to the sun in the journey. This is the gold beginning to truly assert its radiant, unshakable nature.
And as the gold asserts itself, the alchemist realizes they must protect the integrity of the experiment from the noise of the collective.
You have to step back.
Yes, which brings us to a profound stage of deep, solitary introspection. Card 9, the Hermit, corresponding to Virgo. This is the deliberate withdrawal into inner wisdom. It's the alchemist stepping away from the collective noise of society, shutting the heavy door to the laboratory, and working entirely alone in the dark.
I want to spend some real time on the Hermit, because I want to point out a detail in the original Pamela Coleman Smith artwork that completely shatters the traditional superficial reading of this card.
I love this detail. Please share it.
Usually people see an old man in a cloak holding a lantern, and they think, okay, he's looking for truth in the dark. But look closely at the lantern he is holding up. The glowing light inside of the glass is a six-pointed star.
That is a brilliant observation, and it holds the key to the entire alchemical process. That six-pointed star is the traditional geometric symbol for Saturn.
Exactly. Think about what that means mechanically. The light guiding him through the dark is the light of Saturn. It's the lead.
The very thing he's trying to escape is the thing guiding him.
The very heavy, restrictive, dense, depressing lead he has been trying to refine. The trauma, the resistance, the gravity of his worst days is the exact thing generating the light to guide him away from the swinging monkey mind of the collective. The obstacle isn't blocking the path. The obstacle is the lantern. The pain itself is the illumination.
It perfectly illustrates the central axiom of alchemy. The prima materia contains its own salvation.
You don't import the light.
No, you do not bring light into the dark from the outside. You extract the light hidden inside the density of the darkness itself.
Okay, I literally have chills. That is so profound. Following that solitary work in the dark, the energy suddenly shifts dramatically. We encounter card 10, the Wheel of Fortune, corresponding to Jupiter and the metal tin.
The great expander.
After the slow, meticulous, solitary work of Virgo, this is the grand turning of the cosmic cycles. It is the sudden, massive expansion. It is the moment where fate meets fortunate timing, and the alchemical furnace abruptly accelerates. The slow, grueling work suddenly yields a massive, expansive shift in your reality.
But that rapid expansion requires absolute balance lest the vessel shatter. You can't just expand infinitely without a reality check.
Right, things would just blow up.
Exactly. So card 11 is justice, corresponding to Libra, the scales. This is the authentic cosmic assessment. When the furnace cools for a moment, justice acts as the objective evaluator.
It checks your math.
Yes. It weighs what is now refined, true gold, against what is still just heavy, reactive lead. There is no faking it here. The cosmos demands absolute authenticity. You cannot pretend to be enlightened if your nervous system is still functioning out of fear. Justice reveals the exact state of your progress.
And often what justice reveals is that there is still lead remaining.
There almost always is.
There is still ego that needs to be dissolved, which forces us into one of the most challenging psychological stations on the map. Card 12, the Hanged Man, corresponding to Neptune and the element of water. This is the archetype of voluntary suspension, a willing surrender to the process of dissolution.
The Hanged Man is the entry back into the Negredo, the deep waters of the unconscious, but with a crucial difference.
And there is a massive psychological difference here that we have to highlight for the listener. Think about someone dealing with a sudden massive loss or a terrifying life transition.
Like a divorce or losing a career.
Exactly. If the monkey mind fights the transition, if it thrashes around trying to cling to the old reality, it feels exactly like drowning. It's pure panic.
It's exhausting.
But the Hanged Man represents entering the deep water consciously. When you voluntarily suspend your ego's need to control the outcome, it ceases to be a drowning and becomes a deep-sea dive. It's the exact same water. It's the exact same terrifying depth. But the conscious surrender changes the entire physical and emotional nature of the experience.
This profound surrender of the ego leads directly to the inevitable conclusion of that dive. Card 13, Death, corresponding to Scorpio.
The scary card.
But it's not literal physical death. It is the necessary, uncompromising ending of an obsolete psychological form. It is the Negredo made entirely visible.
The rotting away.
Yes. The old coping mechanism, the old belief system, the old identity must be completely dissolved and reduced to absolute ash. Why? So that true, vital, authentic new forms can emerge from the raw material. You cannot build a new castle on a rotten foundation.
Once you survive that psychological death, you arrive at card 14, Temperance, corresponding to Sagittarius. Now imagine the master alchemist sitting patiently at the workbench.
The ultimate test of patience.
This is the incredibly delicate process of combining volatile opposites, mixing fire and water without putting out the fire or boiling away the water. It requires a level of extreme, sustained patience that the reactive monkey mind absolutely despises.
The monkey mind hates temperance.
It really does. The monkey mind wants a quick fix. It wants to meditate for 10 minutes and be enlightened. Temperance demands the slow, careful, drop-by-drop integration of your soul over years.
And right when the alchemist thinks they have achieved perfect saintly balance, the map throws its greatest curveball.
Oh, this one is brutal.
We hit card 15, the devil, corresponding to Capricorn and ruled by the planet Saturn.
Wait, we just spent this entire journey moving away from Saturn, and now we return to the lead.
We return to the lead. This is why Saturn appears twice in this cosmological framework.
It's a trap.
It is entirely a trap. It appears at the very beginning as raw, unshaped potential, and it appears here as the ultimate test, the chains forged in unawareness. The devil represents the monkey mind fully, completely identifying with the dense material world.
It forgets the process entirely.
It is the illusion of absolute bondage. The alchemist achieves a level of success, gets comfortable, and suddenly forgets that they are actually sitting inside a transformative crucible. They become obsessed with status, with fear, with materialism. They believe the heavy lead of their current suffering or addiction is the only reality that exists.
But the cosmos doesn't let you stay stuck in that illusion of bondage forever. Because if you refuse to wake up, the universe will wake you up by force. Enter card 16, the Tower. Mars. Iron.
The wake-up call.
Pure explosive destruction. This is the furnace operating at maximum violent efficiency. It is the sudden lightning strike destruction of the false, rigid foundations you built while you were chained to the devil. The artificial structure of your ego could not hold the expanding pressure of the gold any longer, so the universe literally breaks the structure open.
It is terrifying when it happens.
It feels like a catastrophe, but it is actually liberation. The tower falls so the gold can finally emerge from the rubble.
And as the thick dust settles from that violent, terrifying collapse, we see a light in the sky. Card 17, the star, Aquarius.
The breath of fresh air.
This is the persistent, quiet hope post-tower. It is the clear, cooling frequency of what is possible. It is the very first clear, undeniable sight of the pure gold after the fire has done its most intense destructive work. You are naked, your tower is gone, but you are finally free.
But the journey isn't quite over. We have one last plunge into the depths. Card 18 is the moon, corresponding to Pisces.
The final test.
This is the final dissolution before the dawn. It's the shadowy, oceanic realm where things are unclear, where you face the final remnants of your deepest unconscious fears. It is the ultimate test of faith before you can cross over into the final phase. The rubedo, the reddening.
Which brings us into the blazing, undeniable light of card 19, the sun, corresponding to the sun itself and the metal gold.
We made it to the gold.
This is pure consciousness illuminating absolutely everything. It is the stable, radiant awareness that was always sitting there quietly observing, underneath the chaotic swinging of the monkey mind, underneath the collapse of the tower, underneath the illusion of the devil.
Which triggers card 20. Judgment. Pluto. Fire. This is resurrection.
The Great Awakening.
It is the moment, the prima materia, the raw stuff of your life, hears the call from the depths, wakes up completely, and finally recognizes what it has become. The pure gold looks back at the dense lead it once was, and it understands the absolute necessity of every single fire, every single heartbreak, every single failure it had to endure. It sees the perfection of the process.
And finally, we reach the profound completion of the entire spiral. Card 21. The world.
I really want us to unpack the architecture here, because the structural genius of this nearly broke my brain when I first understood it.
It is the ultimate architectural masterstroke of the map. Let's trace the line. The journey began at card 0, the Fool, which corresponds to Uranus' pure, unpredictable, unshaped, naive potential. And the journey ends with the world. But the world corresponds to Saturn.
So let me get this straight.
Yeah.
We walk this entire agonizing, beautiful, terrifying alchemical map. We face the devil, we survive the tower, we swim through the moon, we achieve the sun, just to end up exactly where we started, with Saturn, with lead.
Not exactly where we started.
Okay, clarify that for me.
The journey begins in raw potential. And it does end back in Saturn, back in the dense, heavy material plane. But it is a Saturn that has been completely refined in the furnace.
Oh, I see.
The world represents the lead that understands it is gold. It is the spiritual truth fully integrated back into the heavy, physical, everyday reality of your life.
That is just, it's breathtaking, because the trap of so much modern spirituality is escapism.
Spiritual bypassing.
Exactly. The monkey mind thinks enlightenment means floating on a cloud and never dealing with annoying people again. But the world card says no. You still have to do your taxes, you still have to sit in traffic, you still have to negotiate with your partner.
You don't get a pass on being human.
But you do it as gold, not as a reactive lead. You don't escape the world to become enlightened. You bring the enlightenment back into the dense lid of the world to transform it.
Precisely. The master alchemist operates seamlessly within the dense reality of Saturn, but with the illuminated consciousness of the sun. Okay, so we've mapped the forces. The planets are the alchemical agents doing the work.
Right.
But we must address the environment in which this work occurs. What is the actual crucible? If the sky is the laboratory, what contains the fire?
Right, because you can't just have fire floating in a void. It needs a structure to contain and direct the heat.
The crucible is the zodiac.
The 12 signs.
Yes. The 12 signs of the zodiac are not just personality profiles in a newspaper column. They are the 12 specific chambers of the alchemical furnace. Each of these 12 chambers applies a highly distinct, specialized quality of heat to the prima materia of your life.
This is where we look at the modalities in astrology, right? Cardinal, fixed, and mutable. I want us to really dig into how these function mechanically as alchemical heat, because this explains so much about human motivation and burnout.
It really does explain so much. Let's start with the cardinal signs: Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. In the alchemical process, cardinal heat initiates.
It's the starter motor.
Exactly. It is the spark. It is sudden, direct, projective heat. When a cardinal force is active in your life, something entirely new enters your crucible.
Cardinal heat is the moment you wake up on a random Tuesday and decide, I'm quitting my job to start a business, or I am finally leaving this toxic relationship. It is the sudden burst of kinetic energy that turns the stove on.
It gets things moving.
It is often the abrupt entry into a new phase of life. It's exciting, it's terrifying, but it is fundamentally characterized by forward momentum.
But cardinal heat cannot sustain itself indefinitely. A spark can start a fire, but it cannot keep the coals burning.
Right, you need something solid for that.
For that, we need the fixed signs: Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius. These signs represent sustained, unwavering heat.
And this is where the real work happens. I immediately think of the long, sustained furnace phase we talked about in our first deep dive.
The marathon phase.
That grueling citrinatus phase where you were trying to forge a new habit. Let's really paint the picture of fixed heat. Imagine you were in a deeply frustrating budget meeting at 3 p.m. on a Tuesday.
Oh, the worst time for a meeting.
The spreadsheet is open, your boss is talking in circles, and your monkey mind is screaming, I need to escape this room immediately. It wants to react, to lash out, to run away. But you can't.
You have to sit with the discomfort.
You have to sit there and hold your professional boundary.
Yeah.
That feeling of intense claustrophobic pressure, that is fixed fire. Or think about deciding to change a deep-seated coping mechanism. The first week is cardinal, it's exciting, you're motivated. But week 4, week 5...
the novelty is completely gone.
Exactly. When the novelty has worn off and your nervous system is begging for its old comfort, that is fixed sign territory. It is a deep, grueling, steady heat where your internal resistance is screaming at you to quit. Fixed signs are the marathon of holding your attention steady when absolutely nothing seems to be happening on the surface, but the gold is forming in the dark depths of the crucible.
That is a perfect, visceral analogy. The fixed heat refines through pressure and endurance, and once the material is finally refined, once the gold has formed, we move to the final modality. The mutable signs: Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces.
What do they do?
Mutable heat distributes, it cools, it adapts, it moves the newly refined material out of the current phase and prepares it for the next.
Mutable heat is the transition. It's the nostalgic, somewhat chaotic phase where you are shedding the old skin entirely and looking around wondering what comes next.
Yeah.
It's the necessary dissolution of the current form so that a new cycle can begin.
Cardinal initiates, fixed refines, mutable distributes, and then cardinal initiates again.
It sounds like a loop, like a hamster wheel of suffering.
It sounds like a loop, but it is actually a spiral, the alchemical spiral.
Okay, explain the difference.
When the mutable phase ends and the cardinal heat initiates the next cycle, the prima materia, your monkey mind, your consciousness, that enters this new phase is already further along. It has already been refined by the previous turn of the wheel.
So you're not starting from scratch?
No, never. You will return to the exact same stations, the exact same archetypal challenges, the exact same types of difficult people, but you return to them with more refined material in your crucible. You respond differently because you are fundamentally different.
Okay, I have to play the role of the listener here again because this is all incredibly beautiful. It is poetic, it is a majestic, collective map of human evolution. But how does this apply to me?
Bringing it down to the individual.
When I am dealing with an intensely painful personal heartache or trying to figure out what to do with my career, how does this vast, sweeping celestial map become personal? How do I know which chamber of the crucible I am currently sitting in?
That is the critical pivot. This is where astrology ceases to be a generalized, collective archetype and becomes your specific, highly individualized laboratory. And it does this through the mechanics of the natal chart.
The exact map of the sky, at the exact moment and location you took your first breath.
Precisely. Your natal chart is your individual, unique crucible configuration. It is the blueprint of your specific vessel. It dictates exactly which alchemical forces are naturally dominant in your life.
So it shows where your natural heat is.
Exactly. It shows which specific tensions and contradictory energies, like a clash between Mars and Venus, are woven directly into your psychological design. It highlights what native gifts you possess effortlessly, and most importantly, it shows what core alchemical lessons your specific soul came here to work on in this lifetime.
So we don't all start with the same lump of lead.
We do not. We all arrive as fellow living souls, but we arrive into highly specific alchemical configurations. The prima materia of your life is utterly unique to you. What constitutes heavy lead for you might be light as a feather for someone else, and vice versa.
That explains so much about interpersonal conflict, actually.
Oh, it explains everything. The specific temperatures of fire that will refine you most effectively are drawn out in your chart.
Let's synthesize this with a concept we discussed in a previous deep dive. We talked about the Schumann resonance, the Earth's electromagnetic pulse, the heartbeat of the planet. Let's frame that resonance as the ambient temperature of the planetary furnace.
I like this. Keep going.
When the Schumann resonance spikes, the global temperature rises, and millions of human nervous systems feel that agitation simultaneously. People get anxious, sleep patterns disrupt, the collective monkey mind goes crazy. But the natal chart explains why you and I can stand at the exact same global energetic spike and have completely different physical and emotional experiences.
Exactly. You are both standing in the same planetary fire, but you are sitting in different personal crucibles.
It's all about the container.
If the cosmic weather is a hurricane, your natal chart determines whether your psychological house has a reinforced steel roof or a basement that is prone to flooding. The exact same ambient heat produces completely different chemical reactions because it is acting on different prima materia housed in different structural designs.
This is the unified system right here. Let me summarize this for you, the listener, because it is profound when you can finally see it all at once. The Schumann resonance, the energetic pulse of the Earth, is the ambient fire.
Yes.
Your natal chart is the unique structural design of your inner crucible. The tarot is the diagnostic map of the exact psychological territory you are navigating on any given day. And alchemy is the overarching philosophical framework that helps you understand the transformation of your chaotic monkey mind into pure, stable awareness. All four systems, completely unified into one master operating system.
It is an elegant, masterfully integrated system. It represents the pinnacle of ancient esoteric thought. But it does raise an important practical question.
And what's it?
We have named these layers. Alchemy is the process. Tarot is the map. Astrology is the weather forecast, identifying the archetypes and the forces at play in the sky. But while astrology is brilliant at telling us what the cosmic weather is, it lacks a certain degree of modern mechanical precision.
What do you mean by mechanical precision? If I know my chart, don't I know how I operate?
Astrology tells you that the heat is rising, and it tells you what specific flavor of heat it is based on the planets involved. But it doesn't explicitly give you an operating manual for your specific biology.
It's still a bit theoretical.
It doesn't tell you exactly how your unique physical human nervous system is mechanically designed to interact with those forces. It gives you the psychology, but it lacks the physiological strategy for making correct decisions when the fire gets unbearably hot.
Okay, I see exactly where this is going. This is the final dangling thread from our last deep dive. We mentioned the Kabbalah, and we left it hanging there. We talked about how amazingly complex it was.
We did. And here's where we pick that thread up and weave it into the final piece of the puzzle. In 1987, an entirely new synthesis emerged on the planet. A system that takes the exact planetary coordinate data of traditional astrology, but instead of just reading it mythologically or psychologically, it runs that exact data through 4 ancient and modern systems simultaneously.
It runs the astrological data through the ancient Chinese I Ching, the Jewish Kabbalah's Tree of Life, the Hindu chakra system, and the modern mechanical findings of quantum physics and genetics.
Yes, and the result of that massive, unprecedented synthesis is a system called human design. If astrology is the map of the sky and the tarot is the map of the mind, human design is the map of you inside the sky.
It's the literal schematic for your specific biological vehicle. It is the instruction manual.
It shows you your precise mechanics. It doesn't just say you have a lot of Mars energy. It shows you exactly how your specific body is designed to process that energy, how to make decisions using your body's innate mechanical intelligence so that your swinging monkey mind can finally sit in the passenger seat where it belongs, rather than constantly grabbing the steering wheel and driving you into the ditch out of fear.
This completely shifts the paradigm from philosophy to mechanical application. So I want to connect directly with you, the listener, as we close this deep dive. We all share a core human desire. We all walk around wishing that life came with an instruction manual.
We all want the cheat code.
Exactly. We wish we knew exactly how to make decisions without the agonizing second-guessing of the monkey mind. In our last meeting, we used the motif of the dusty drawer, finding that forgotten tarot deck that held the exact alchemical diagnostic you needed. But I know for a lot of you listening right now, the answer you were looking for isn't hiding in a deck of cards anymore.
No, it's hidden in something much more precise, much more individualized.
That drawer is holding a human design chart. You probably heard someone mention it on a podcast a few years ago. You went to a website, typed in your exact birth time, and downloaded this incredibly complex, intimidating diagram full of geometric shapes, numbers, and intersecting red and black lines.
It looks like a circuit board.
It really does. You looked at it, felt completely overwhelmed by the sheer volume of dense mechanical information, and you immediately filed it away in a digital dusty drawer. Or perhaps you've never heard of it at all, but you've been desperately searching for a way to mechanically bypass your own anxiety.
It happens to almost everyone who encounters human design for the first time. It is a dense, highly mechanical map. It is not intuitive at first glance.
But it is the ultimate definitive map of your individual crucible. So my challenge to you is this. Go find that chart. Dig it out of your downloads folder. Or go generate one for the first time. Dust it off. Look at the confusing shapes and lines. Because now that you understand the alchemy, the planets, and the vast map of the sky, you are finally ready to understand the mechanical map of you.
You're ready for the user manual.
You are ready to learn how to actually drive the vehicle. And that is exactly where our next deep dive will begin.
Until then, remember that the immense forces moving the stars in the night sky are the exact same forces moving through your living room. Observe the fire, hold your vessel steady, and trust the process.
We'll see you in the crucible.